In this beginner-friendly tutorial, we're going to go through all the steps to scan an object, create the artwork, and projection map onto it. This is what the final result will look like. So the first step is to find an object that you want to project onto. I chose this mask that I got in Belize. It's a traditional Mayan mask, and I just think it has a lot of really cool geometry and beveled edges. So there's a lot of interesting artwork I could do to project on this. To start, I'm just going to do a simple one that's going to kind of make this look like a metallic object. So then you need to get the PolyCam app, which will allow us to do photogrammetry using our phone. It lets you do a few scans for free. So once you open that, you hit the plus sign and just click Object. And then it'll open up your camera. And basically you just want to go around 360 degrees, nice and slowly. And you want to hit record once you're centered. And just start rotating around the object here. And you see in the bottom right, it's taking pictures. So those are all the different angles. And it'll stitch those together and generate the 3D object. So I'll just fly through this here. Okay, so once it's done, there's a few settings here. I want to make sure it's on the photogrammetry. And then for the quality, you can either set it to raw or dense. I think dense is fine for this, and it comes with textures, even though we won't be using those. And then you just want to upload and process it. While it's processing, there's a few things we can go over with our projector setup. So I'm using this AXA Technologies LED Pico projector. I like it because it's really small. You can cast directly to it, and it has a 1/4-inch screw on the bottom, along with a battery that'll last for a few hours. So it's really cool for taking on the go. And then I just put it onto this light stand here with this little ball joint at the top. So that sits like that, and then we aim it directly across at our object there. So that's my setup. It's pretty simple. Before we render the artwork, you need to decide where your projector will be in the room. So for me, I'm keeping it right in front of the object, but depending on your layout, it might need to be off to the side. And then I'm just checking to see how high up it is. It's right at about eye level. So when we set up our scene to do the artwork in 3D, we'll put our camera right at eye level. So once it finishes processing, you can inspect the model. You can see it did a pretty good job here. We've got the textures and a lot of those edges. You can look at the actual wireframe mesh here. And then we just want to go to Export and GLTF, and we'll email ourselves a link to download that. All right, so I'm on my computer now. I got an email from PolyCam. I'm going to download the file. I like to use the GLTF because it comes with material. And then just move that into a folder that you want to work from. So I've already done that part. And then I opened a fresh Houdini session. You can open any 3D software that you want to work from, but if you want to follow along, I use Houdini. So then I'm going to save as and just go to that folder that I put the file in. So I'm calling this my mask and just give it a name. All right, so the first thing we want to do in Houdini is import that file. So import GLTF scene, and it's right here in our hip file directory. And we don't need to change anything. Just import it, and there it is, comes in with the material. You can see it, the controls I'm using on the bottom. If you've never used Houdini, or you can watch a few beginner tutorials. Basically, the first step here is to clean up this model because we don't need any of this junk on the bottom. So to do that, I'm going to go into the geometry, the actual mesh, and I'm going to start by dropping in a box. And we'll visualize the box, template this, and hit enter in the viewport to bring this down, and just try to get most of the ground here. And we'll plug them both into a Boolean. So that's going to subtract the box from it, and there's a little bit left over. So I'm just going to manually select that and delete it. So this should be good. And the other thing I wanted to do for cleanup, because this mesh is not super high resolution, if we turn off the material, you can see it's kind of bad. So we can up-res it by using a remesh. And if you set the target size 0.0015, you'll see you get more triangles now. And then if we use a delta mush, we can smooth that out. So you can do a lot of smoothing or a little smoothing. Found what 5 to be pretty good. You see the UVs got messed up, but we don't even need the UVs for the effect we're doing. So you can stop visualizing those. Cool, so now the model is clean. So we need to go back up and go to the stage level and start setting up cameras and lighting. So first thing, we will import our geometry with a scene import node. The object here is that Geo1. All right, there it is. And we can turn off the material again, which it automatically imported. And then we can drop in a camera. And we need to merge. Plug both of these into the merge and visualize that. All right, so you can see the camera icon's really big. We don't want that way too big of a camera. I'll delete this scale guide and achieve that 0.1. And then if you remember when we laid out the projector for where it's going to be in my room, the projector was at the eye level of the mask. So we want to make sure the camera is at eye level here. And then we're just going to pull it way back. And we can visualize through the camera here. We're just going to keep pulling back. About right there is probably fine. And we can add a little bit of a tilt. And there we go. So now it's fully in frame. Cool. So the next thing we need is a light. So we can go ahead and drop in, actually not light, we need an environment light. Drop that in. And what we want to use for the texture is an HDRI. And so I'll include this one in the description of the video. This is something I generated with Nano Banana. And it's pretty cool. It's like this sort of cathedral, that sci-fi cathedral with these glowing colors. And so you see it's in there now, but it's not doing too much for our mask. And that's because we don't have a material that is set up to reflect the HDRI. So what we need to do is override this material. So to do that, we're going to go back to the object level. We're going to dive into the GLTF, into this material. And first thing, we're just going to delete this principal material. And so if I go back to stage now, you'll see it's just white, the material's gone. And I'm going to pin this window. I'm also going to turn off the visualization of the light. And I'm going to hit D and go to the background and change it to dark and turn off all this stuff so we can see our objects and how we'll render. And then just going to hit escape to get rid of any other visualizers. Go back to object level, go here, go to materials, and Now we need a new principal shader. All right, and it's named the exact same thing, which is what our mesh is looking for, principal shader 1. But you'll see it's not picking up the color. And I found you just have to recook it, force to recook it by turning the visualization on and off. So go into materials. All right, and then for this effect, what we want to do is make it like a light gray. We're going to do 0.15 on roughness and metallic to 1. And so immediately you start getting the reflections of that HDRI. And if we go back to the stage level and we go to the light, we can turn the intensity up to about 4. If we hit D again, we can also turn the grid off here. And the only thing for this effect is to just animate the light. So right now you can see we're rendering in the Houdini viewport using Houdini VK. So that's going to give us like really instant visuals here. So as I scrub, rotating that HDRI, we can see the reflections change. And that's really all we're looking for with this effect. How it will actually render is using Karma XPU. So this is going to give you higher quality shadows and reflections, just an overall better render. It's slower to scrub through with that, but we can get a good preview of what it'll look like. So I'm just going to start on frame 1 at 0 and set a keyframe, and then go to frame 240, and we're going to rotate 360 degrees, so a full rotation. And then I'm going to go into the channels here and just select them, both the keyframes, and make them linear. And so now we'll have a seamless 10-second loop as our light slowly rotates around. All right, so then step 6 here is the Karma render settings. So we need one of these. We just want to set some controls here, some parameters. We want to render with XPU, which is going to use your GPU. Path trace, probably don't need to be that high. We can go down a little bit, and then we can go to the image output and turn on the NVIDIA filter, which will clean up some of the noise. You can also go up to 1920 if you want. Once that's all set up, we do the render wrap. Now we plug that in like this, and we just also want to make sure that's Karma XPU, and the output image is going to go to, we can just put it in a new folder here. So we can set that down to this, and you need to use $F4 expression. I use PNG format because it will have an alpha channel. And then we need to change the frame range to 1 to 240. And the $F4, that actually evaluates to the current frame you're on. So 134 as I change that number update. So we're going to write out a sequence of images here. Once it's all set up like that, you can just hit render to disk, and we just have to wait for the whole thing to render. Alright, so once that finishes rendering, you can open DaVinci Resolve. If you don't have it, you can also download that free. And go to the Media tab, right-click and import media, and we're just going to select all of the images in the sequence. And from that, we will create a new timeline, create it, and then if we go here and return on the loop, you'll see as we get to the end, it seamlessly goes to the beginning and continues. So it's looking pretty cool. What I like to do here is go to the color tab and actually bring the gamma down and just kind of get it a little bit darker. And that's going to make it look even cooler in my opinion. And then what we want to do is write this out as a standard MP4 file. So here we can call this final mask effects, and we'll put it as MP4, and H.264 is what the LightMapper app supports. We want to make sure we use that. And the timeline resolution should be fine. This should be fine. Probably don't need it to be best. It can be a smaller file. And then we'll add that to the render queue and render. So now all we need to do is get this movie file onto our iPhone. So I'll just use Google Drive. Okay, so back on your phone, you're going to want to download the LightMapper app, which is an app I made to help calibrate projection mapping art. So it's free to download. And then once you have it, you just want to transfer your video clip onto your phones. I use Google Drive here. Download that to your photos. Then we can open the LightMapper app, and we want to click New Setup. Because we're doing our own custom artwork, click Import Media and select Media. I will choose the video clip that we rendered out, and that will come in, and we'll be able to calibrate it at this screen. So we can adjust each corner, the horizontal and vertical offset, using the sliders. So as I drag that horizontal top left, you can see it adjust. Okay, so I've got the app open on my iPad, and I'm just casting to my projector, which is just a feature of this projector. You could also just use an HDMI cord or hook up a Roku and cast to the Roku, however you want to do it. But it's a little off-center, so I'm just going to reposition it here by moving the projector itself. You want to physically align the projector as the first step so that you don't have to adjust in the app as much. But then you can fine-tune it in the app by adjusting the sliders. And I'm working on the controls for this to make it more intuitive, but we're just going to go through and drag each corner and try to get that alignment as close as we can. So I'll speed through this, and then we'll go to the next step. So once you get it pretty close, what we can do is save it here. And it's going to open it in a new calibration mode. And then we can just do a little bit of wiggling if we need to. So we can get our brush size and turn our strength down maybe a little bit. And we can just go up here. And we can just kind of touch those edges in. So it's just perfect. I like that. See that? And then maybe on this side, we just want to touch those edges in. So we go over here, we switch it, right? Then we go over here. We're just going to touch. So you go in, touch, touch, touch. Maybe we're missing right there. Cool. And then maybe we can go and clean up just this down a little bit. And so we're going to get this top corner here that's just a little over the top. Just going to click right above it on the app. There, trued it up. And then it looks like on the bottom, we should bring everything up a little bit. So just turn the strength up a little bit and size up. I'm just going to try to clean up that bottom edge. So we're just going to get a little bit more accuracy here. There we go. That is looking pretty cool. So as the last step, all you have to do is here over here and go to hide controls, and this is your only output. And there we go. Now you can sit back and enjoy your new artwork. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them below. Thanks for watching.